What a morning. You know, I'm very blessed that I have people on the light side and people on the dark side of my life. And first thing this morning, I got woken up by an advisor to the Australian government who says to me, Charlie, I've been watching you. And I said, yeah, I appreciate that. He said, well, you're talking about the quantum financial system. He said, 95% of what you're saying is bang on right. But there's about 5% I just need to put you right on. I've gone, well, what do you know about it? He said, well, I'm working on it.
Oh,
okay, that's handy. I said, I'll listen then, go on. And it was basically the quantum financial system has been tested from the 2nd of August until now, still being tested. It's working perfectly well. That's why Bank of England are closed. Bank of England are closed due to COVID-19. Bank of Spain are closed due to technical difficulties. They're all different ones around the world, and yet nobody's put two and two together going, why have all the central banks closed for the week?
oh, that's just brilliant.
And if you phone up Bank of England, you might as well talk to a cleaner. I mean, the brain cells that you get when you get through to them is unbelievable.
Well, I remember calling them 20 years ago to ask them to explain the fractional reserve banking system. And they passed me to 5 different people who just went, sorry, can't help you.
Yeah, it's incredible, isn't it? But no, the quantum financial system will start on the 1st of August. And then just by chance, one of the guys who I know who's a hacker, and they basically do the manual downloads, the IPs and all this. I've known him for years. He's phoning me up going, Charlie, the SWIFT system is being taken down on the 31st of August. I go, yeah. He said, well, why didn't you tell me? I said, I've been telling you for 4 months. I just didn't know what date it was. But I've heard this morning, the new one starts on the 1st of September. So what that means is that there's no overlap.
Yeah, amazing. Do you know one of the most amazing things about some of the things you've been saying relates to the dragon family?
Yeah.
I was reading about the dragon family about 10 years ago through Benjamin Fulford. I don't know if you've ever been on his website.
No, I don't know.
So he says he represents the dragon family over in Japan. He's a Canadian journalist who whistleblower, etc. I mean, he puts out a news story every Monday, and it's just been fascinating. Anyway, so I was aware of these bonds. I was aware of the value of them in 2011, 12, 13. I was in my own little bubble. Nobody was interested. There was nobody to talk to about it. And then I moved to Marrakesh.
Beautiful place.
And I moved to Marrakesh with my family, 5 kids. And I started talking to this guy about setting up a school because there wasn't a school for the kids that was any good. So I started talking to this guy. We had a few drinks and I'm not going to say his name or anything, but I was talking about this stuff and he said, you are joking. He was French, excuse my accent. I said, why? What do you mean, am I joking? He said, because I am their broker. I went, what? I moved in next door to their broker.
Yeah.
And he held up his mobile phone and he showed me one of the bonds on his phone.
Yeah.
And I was like, are you shitting me?
Yeah.
I couldn't believe it. And I listened to his conversations trying to cash these bonds for hours and hours and hours. I'd sit and listen in on them. And I was like, I can't believe that this is actually happening to me. I've moved in next door to... And he told me that there was an attempt to cash in one, I think it was about 2 or 3 years ago, and it was Deutsche Bank. Somebody in Deutsche Bank stole the money.
Yeah, that's right.
Is that true?
100% true.
Wow. You're the first person I've ever met that even knows what I'm talking about. So
I've known the family for 15, 20 years, personally.
Wow.
They know my wife. They know Justin, who's my little boy. Whenever we go into Hong Kong, they're the first people to come and see us. They're the most humble people you'll ever meet. I mean, they are just beautiful people. And the daughter of the main man, she didn't want to come out for dinner the other day because she doesn't speak English and we didn't speak Chinese. And I said, oh, don't worry, Justin's, he was 7 or 8 years old at the time. I said, he'll communicate. And within half an hour, they'd become the best of friends. And she was absolutely adorable. My wife said to me, whispered to me, are you sure they're who you say they are? And I said, well, you know, I've known them for a very long time, and yes, they are. And then the penny dropped when they ordered shark fin soup at $150 a bowl.
That's my favourite soup.
yeah. It was but they are a very, very nice. I've always loved them as people because I've worked with them for a long time. We've done a lot of stuff, moving stuff or whatever. But it's very interesting that these dragon bonds, the more I've done, and the golden bonds and all these different bonds, when they actually valued them about 6 weeks ago, they were valued at multi-quadrillions.
Yeah, I know they're big.
They're big. And it's very interesting that if you look at the line, it comes from it's a Himalayan descent, the family. And it's nothing to do with communism. So they're very happy that the Communist Party have been dissolved.
Aren't we all?
Yeah, exactly. They've just completely disappeared now. And the thing is with the Chinese government, nobody knows who's in power there anyway from the outside because it's a secret society. They've all gone. So Chairman Xi will be replacing them all with people that will be the new Republic of China. And of course, this is where what most people are completely oblivious to is this whole financial transition from SWIFT, from the Federal Reserve to the quantum financial system has all been funded by the dragons.
Well, this is what I heard. I also heard there were all these humanitarian projects that were ready to go, ready to be funded, and you know, all seemed like science fiction to me. But one of the reasons why nobody understands this, I mean, I did economics as a degree 30 years ago, and the fractional reserve banking system was never mentioned once.
Incredible, isn't it?
And I spent a whole year reading Das Kapital by Karl Marx, the Satanist, I've since found out.
Yeah.
Satanist, Karl Marx. And I was an economist.
Yeah.
And I didn't know anything about money.
It's incredible.
It's extraordinary.
Yeah. It's absolutely amazing. And we're very, very privileged, aren't we, to be alive in this time to see.
This is why I did a post on your page, because you have been a source of great hope recently, and you know, this is even with some of the things I've known over the years, it still like filled me full of fear at the beginning, because I knew this was coming. I knew that there was I didn't know exactly when, but I knew the time's coming. The New World Order is they're going to keep pushing forward. They've been pushing and pushing and pushing. It's going to happen soon. When it did happen, I think the first post I put on Facebook was something like, I knew this was coming. This is amazing. It's finally here. Now we've got to face up to it. And then I went through a kind of, you know, I just had the kids at home and I was just trying to focus on my own life, and, you know, didn't know what was going on. So there was fear. And then you popped up and started saying, no, it's going to be all right. I think it was one of your walking videos I saw first.
Oh, yes.
I was like, who's this guy? I like this. This is a bit more positive. And now I've started my own channel because I've had enough. And, Good. You know, all of us have got to start talking, I think.
Well, the New World Order they were pushing, which was George Soros's plan with the Clinton Foundation, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That's what they wanted. And the alliance, which is behind Donald Trump, is doing, it's not the same by any sense of the imagination. It's different in a number of different ways. With the New World Order, it was very much one government, one currency, one world, one religion, one everything. And Donald Trump has been put in place to stop that happening. And also with the vaccines that were going to be mandatory under New World Order. You know, ridiculous thing to do when they haven't even tested them. And the ones that they have tested in India have killed tens of thousands of people, and they've tried them in Africa and they've killed tens of thousands of people. And all those governments are suing the World Health Organization and Bill Gates. But that's all under wraps, you know. Trump is sending out red flags all over the place, but he's totally in control. What most people didn't realize, because they hadn't got a clue what was going on, was the first of the shutdown, the global shutdown, was in Italy. And Trump made a point about mentioning that they took out the head of the beast first. Well, the head of the beast was the
Phoenicians.
The Venetians. They took those out right at the start, 12 families, I think it was in total. So that nobody had anywhere to hide, because they're the people behind the scenes that control everything. That's where every birth certificate in the world is, because it's technically offshore. It's not. That's why we're all under maritime law.
Yeah.
So once that was taken out, they had nowhere to go, and they've taken them out bit by bit by bit by bit. The Vatican being emptied. The reason I knew the Vatican was being emptied was our own security guys were looking after the Pope, and also the guys that I used for moving currency around were now all of them employed, 650 planes, to move what the contents of the Vatican from the Vatican into Fort Knox. And also I've been included as the team that's now going to be part of the team that moves that around the world, to back the currencies in different countries, because there is obscene amounts of cash and gold that was taken out of there, and there is also ridiculous amounts of gold in the Philippines, Cambodia, Vietnam. I mean, I've been over to Vietnam and I've inspected 178 underground warehouses full.
Have you?
Yeah.
Wow.
Personally.
Now, I've heard about this stuff, but you're the first person I've ever met that's confirmed it.
Oh, I've actually been there and actually visually seen it. I didn't count it. I didn't test it while I was there, but I was given sight of it.
You didn't pick one up for a nibble?
No, I would love to have done that. You have to also understand this is all unrecorded gold. It's not listed, but there are people currently now, as we speak, doing an inventory check on it all. So that's in process right now, because that will be used to back the currencies around the world. But there's a lot of things that he's doing right now to make sure, like he always referred to Europe as being the Nazi states of Europe, the European Union. And he wanted to make sure that that was collapsed before that they back the currency. So they get them back in the real world, because the European Union they needed the UK out as well, because they wanted the UK to stand alone from that. And that worked out perfectly. But they've broken the European Union down, and I'm sure it will break up. And I think that will be an absolutely great thing, especially for countries like Spain and Italy, which will go back to the peseta and the lira. If they do that as a currency one-to-one with the euro, suddenly the Spanish and the Italians will wake up to, hang on, this future is going to be bright.
Well, it's almost like I've not dared to dream that it's true. That's part of the, because it all sounds like too good to be true. And I was thinking this morning about, I've put some stuff. I've lost a lot of friends, real friends, and people I've had to just stop talking to, because I've said things like, look at what Trump's actually doing. And then I got all this hatred. 4 years ago, I made a video about the EU and saying, is it really what you think it is? And I got loads of hatred. Sure. Then I posted some stuff about different satanic stuff that I covered, and I got loads of hatred. And it's really been psychologically tough. Yeah. I mean, I started waking up, if you want to call it that, about 30 years ago. I was in the RAF, and I saw a few things that weren't true. Sure. And then a couple of my friends committed suicide, and they covered one of them up. And I was like, who am I working for? Yeah. Who am I working for? And I had the Queen's Commission. Yeah. I was so brainwashed, Charlie. Yeah. I used to come home from cadet. In fact, actually, I grew up there was a religious cult like you. I was in Northampton, not far from you. Yeah. There was a religious cult in my village. Which village was that? Called Bugbrook. It's in Northampton. Okay. And there was a religious cult there called the Jesus Army. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I know exactly what you're talking about. I know I'm going off on the tangents here, but that was started by a guy called Noel Stanton, who was the lay preacher of the village church in the 50s, and he started this. I know the family. You do? Paul Stanton is one of my best friends. Oh, so I've got to be careful what I say now. No, not at all. Paul and I left the Plymouth Brethren at the same time. And it's all connected. It's all connected. Yeah. I think it's his uncle that you're referring to. We just chose to take a different path in our life from what they did. Well, the thing is with brainwashing, as you will know, some people can clear their mind of it, and some people it does other things too. Well, what happened to me was that I was molested by a doctor who was in that cult, and I found that my dad used to tell me a story about when he was a choir boy, 10 years old. This guy Noel tried to fiddle with him, and my dad told me that he punched him in the bollocks and ran away. I found out later that that's not what happened. Mm-hmm. And I said to my nan before she died, I said, why didn't you do anything about this? And she just looked at me and she said, we were just too scared. Yeah. And I was like, and I'm just I've got indignant rage about paedophiles, right? So yeah. I know everything that I've tried to do with my kids is protect them from this and everything else. But So I was in the Air Force, and I was so brainwashed that I was in the Air Cadets, and I used to rush back on Thursday night after parade in Northampton and turn on Question Time because I thought I was keeping abreast of the world. Little did I know I was probably watching a load of paedophiles then on the BBC, the Jimmy Savile Protecting Brainwashing Corporation of the UK. And at the end of the Question Time, I don't know if you remember this, but they used to play the national anthem.
Yeah.
As the BBC, I used to stand to attention when there was nobody else in the room.
Yeah, yeah. That's a military training.
I'm like, oh my God, I look back on that. And then I had to turn my dad's life support machine off because he died of a brain hemorrhage at 37. And my world just went nuts for the next 20 years. It took me a very, very long time to get over that. But what it did is it opened me up.
Of course it does.
It opened me up, and I was questioning who am I working for? And there was a really big moment when I got given an award by Prince Philip at St James's Palace.
Yeah.
And it was the Duke of Edinburgh's award. Excuse me. And I was supposed to collect it the year before, but I joined the Air Force in the meantime. So I turned up in my uniform, and it was one of those days where traffic was awful in London. I was with my mum. She was in her best clothes, blah, blah, blah. Got to St James's Palace. He comes along. I mean, I'm not tall. I'm 5'7 3/4". And he was like that on me. And this is 30 years ago. He had a face like leather and these eyes, these unbelievable eyes. I'd never seen anything like it. But he was my commander-in-chief. So he shook him by the hand, and he looked at me and he said, I see you've joined and somebody had to whisper in his ear because he didn't recognize, Royal Air Force. And I was like, what? You don't recognize this uniform?
Yeah.
What? And I gave him a look, and he gave me the dirty. I'll never forget the look he gave me, the dirtiest look I've ever seen in my life, and I was terrified. And he whipped his hand away from me and moved on, and that really affected me because I really started thinking about all of this stuff. And then the way life works is that you just bump into the teachers appear when you're ready. And I was a stand-up comic for a number of years based in Manchester, and there was this Canadian comedian one night in a curry house. I think it was 1999, and he gave me a copy of something called the Protocols of the Elders of Zion. I didn't even know what Zion was. No. I'd heard of it. And he invited me to go and join this refuge in Canada where they were digging these underground, this is 30 years ago, digging these underground houses, arming to the teeth, growing their own food. And he invited me to go and live there. And he said, read this first. So I read it, and it was a plan. It was a plan. World War I, World War II, World War III, all of this. If you look it up online now, it's anti-Semitic, blah, blah, blah. But, if you haven't read it, and that was when Y2K happened. I remember walking home on New Year's Eve, just crapping myself, thinking, well, the world's just going to fall apart. And then it didn't. But then you've got different spectacles. So you start seeing things in a different way. And over the next 20 odd years, I just became obsessed with it and trying to look into it. And then, for years I've been called a conspiracy nutter, and I've had to put up with all of that kind of crap. And now seeing people talking about some of the guests you've had on, the stuff that you've done, it's just amazing. It's amazing. And, when I found Q a couple of years ago and we talked about the Great Awakening, now we're seeing it.
Yeah, totally.
It's almost too good to be true. And I was thinking about doing a podcast because I put something up about, I've got a very good friend who's quite well known in the UK. And she said, after one of my Facebook posts, she said, this is the biggest, most extreme version of the savior complex, something like that. And I was thinking, am I just looking to Trump because I want a savior? So I'm really internally thinking. I was just watching a Mark Devlin video who brought Charlie Freak to my attention.
Yeah.
Mark Devlin's amazing. And he's saying the same thing. He said, he's got all this information from Charlie Freak, but dare he believe it? Dare he believe this is true? And that's the thing. But you seem to know that it is true. And a lot of people are.
One of the most important things, Mark, that I've learned is just to trust my own moral judgment. But what I had to do was reset my moral compass before I could do that.
Me too.
And when your moral compass is straight,
yeah,
I've often said, and I said it yesterday the same, if you believe in God, ask him. If you believe in Allah, ask him. If you don't believe in anything, ask your mother or your grandmother.
Mm-hmm.
And they will guide you as to what's right and what's wrong. And then you can reset your moral compass. And then when you find out information, you have to understand, Mark, your opinion is your opinion, my opinion is my opinion, and it's based on what we hear.
Yeah.
So you and I can hear the same thing and deliver it a different way.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with that. But when the people hear it, they have to take that information and create their own image of what that is, and make sure that if their moral compass is correct, then they'll get it and they'll deliver it correctly. I had somebody, because I used to, in my old videos, I used to say, remember Jesus loves you, but everyone else thinks you're a C-U-N-T. That's how I started my journey. And I got some guy said, why are you saying that I'm a C-U-N-T? I said, I never said you were. I said, everyone else might think you are one, and certainly they do. And I said, the fact you've even raised that, I'm sure they all think that. But it's interpretation. And there's another thing I picked up. I used to love this because there was an advert for Peugeot that was, I think it was the 206 or 306. And there's a young lad driving his car along, and this young fit bird looks at him and has gone, is that your car? And he's like, yeah, that's my car. You know, he's really chuffed. And then his mate, who's driving down, goes, is that your car? And he's going, yeah, he's really proud. Then he goes around the next corner, and there's a traffic warden there. He's gone, is that your car? Exactly the same words. Exactly the same words. But said in a different spirit, and it has a completely different meaning.
Yeah.
And we often hear about it's not what you say, it's the way that you say it. But that's using exactly the same words, but it's delivered in a different spirit, a different manner. It's been a massive learning curve for me, but I've loved the journey.
Well, me too. I had a quite tough time a couple of years ago, and I was given a choice by God.
Yeah.
Are you going to carry on, or are you going to, right? And then suddenly all these healers appeared out of nowhere, right? I got this woman in the Appalachian Mountains came and removed entities from me, and then I had this Mayan representative on Earth did a chart for, and they just came from. I was pushed to the front of the queue for people that had 2-year waiting lists because people, and then I'm like, yeah, I got given the Celestine Prophecy in Florida about 25 years ago by an artist called Ruth Harley, and that book, it was like I'm in that book. You know, it's just like all these things are going on. And so I had this choice to whether I was going to carry on or not. And angels appear out of nowhere. They come through people. Angels and demons come through people. This is the thing that I've learned. And demons have been my earliest memory, if we're going to talk about this stuff, which I might as well, because there's nothing else. This is where we are now, right? Okay. My earliest memory is demons coming to me at night and trying to convince me to join them.
Yeah.
Right, and I remember it was in the coal strike, the 1973, I think it was.
Yeah.
My mum bought in one of those little co-op tea lights because there was no electricity. I think it was 3 days, right? And she put it next to my bed because I didn't like the dark. And I remember sitting up in the bed, and the shadow was on this wall, normal. There was another shadow on the other wall, and it had horns on it. And I was going like this, and I was about 4 years old, I think.
Yeah.
Sitting up and down, going like that. So fast forward to just before this happened, I had a medium reading with a woman in Ireland, an amazing woman called Molly. And she said, the spirits are asking me if you want to be an exorcist. And I went, what? I'm an entrepreneur. Why would I want to be an exorcist?
Yeah.
And they said, well, you know an awful lot about demons. And you've managed to fight them off. And because I've made some. So what I'm saying is that, the life entity possession and stuff like that has become a big interest of mine because it's always been there.
Yeah.
And I think that what I've learned about this cabal, whatever you want to call them, is that they definitely understand how this universe really works. They understand magic with a K. They understand and they use it. And even the language, what you're saying about the way words are said differently. I'm actually looking forward to Charlie Freak's book on the phonetics of each letter. I think it might be the wrong word, but spelling, they contain spells. And, these words are a kind of prison for us. They've created this perceptual prison. And then when you look into symbolism, And symbolism, you know, the easiest one to explain that is like if you walk through London, there's one symbol you cannot avoid. You can't walk two places without seeing this symbol. It's the London Underground symbol.
Yeah. Sure.
It's the planet Saturn.
Yeah.
And then when you start realizing that all these symbols, if you go to Google and type in corporate logo Saturn,
yeah,
they're all Saturn.
Yeah.
Why? Because the symbols carry a frequency. The frequency comes into our head, into our pineal gland, and then we create the universe based upon their inputs.
Yeah.
So this is what I think lifting of the veil is all about. And there was one thing Trump said, because when this started, I was exhausted because I was staying up watching all Trump's press conferences. And at the end of one of them, he said, when this washes through, it's going to be like a burst of light. A burst of light. And he said it twice.
Yeah.
And it really resonated with me. I was like, what does he mean? What does he mean, a burst of light? And I think it's all related to the removal of this prison structure that we don't see because we're creating it.
Yeah.
And I mean, does any of that resonate with you? I mean, we're talking about money 1 minute, but then I'm talking about demons. And
yeah, 100%. And I did a chat yesterday with Tom Sidney Bushnell about numbers, numerology, numerology, and the most simple numerology out there happened at his speech at Whirlpool. First of all, what are you doing at Whirlpool? Second of all, if you look at a normal box, it has
oh, he had 3 different words for washer on the boxes.
That's right, in 3 different languages. But how many boxes were there?
17.
17.
Q.
17th number of the letter of the alphabet is Q, correct. And these little symbols that he puts out for people who know, that's not a coincidence. First of all, what president in history has had 17 washing machines behind him on stage while he's giving us
a sense of humour, if nothing else?
Exactly. You know, it's not the most normal. If he had 17 flags, you go, well, that could be a coincidence.
Yeah, yeah.
But to 17 washing machines.
Well, he goes through a lot of underwear in his job, you know what I mean?
Yeah, he does. Exactly. But no, it's a fabulous time.
Oh, it is amazing. And you've given me hope to feel that this is actually happening. And
it is. It's definitely happening.
Well, you know, and one of the things that was amazing at the beginning, you know, one of the most amazing things just through Facebook, I've been talking about this stuff on Facebook for years. You know, when I started doing it, there were people saying, aren't you scared? Aren't you scared they're going to get you? And I'm like, who are they?
Who are they?
Well, you're admitting that there is somebody there to be afraid of.
Yes, yes.
Correct. That was the interesting thing. So I kept doing that, and you know, people, you know, I found a bit of a tribe. But when this happened, when this pandemic started, I was answering questions. People were writing to me saying, "Mark, what's going on?" Like I had the answers.
Yeah.
And I found myself becoming like an agony aunt.
Yeah.
And I was really. And I got I got a lot from this because I started helping other people. And then I started realizing, well, this is all now a collaboration, right? We've all got these different levels of knowledge. Now it's time to just try and wake everybody else up because, you know, I still go into the shop and I see people in masks and it's awful. And it's fascism. And it's like, how long is this going to go? When are they going to realize?
The one thing you'll get used to is people want instant success and instant answers. Yeah. Part of the way we've been brought up over the last 20 years, you know, because you can get an instant response by email, by WhatsApp, or by Signal, or Telegram, or Skype, or whatever. You know, when you and I grew up, we had to write a letter and then send it. It took 3 days to get there and 3 days to get back.
Or go to the phone box, which smelled of piss.
That's right.
Put 2p in.
Or be at home at 6 o'clock inside the front door for the phone at home. Exactly. But everybody wants everything done yesterday. And I often remind people World War II took 5.5 years, and this has taken 4 months. And the job that's been done this time is 10 times greater than World War II.
Yeah.
What they got rid of.
It's just wonderful. It's wonderful.
The interesting thing for people like you and I living outside of the UK is when you looking at some simple facts of COVID-19 being downgraded to nothing more than the flu back in March of this year by the World Health Organization, the CDC, and the government. So we knew it was no worse than the common cold. Then they empty Buckingham Palace and board it up. It's all boarded up. The Queen goes into quarantine indefinitely. Really? And then I noticed today that Prince Charles is stepping down as the Duchy of Cornwall on his range of foods and what have you. You go, when will people start to realise that 1 and 1 make 2? There's things that happen. Why did Harry and Meghan disappear in a rapid hurry? There's certain things that you just go, why?
It's too much. It's too much to be a coincidence.
It is. And then I found out there was 100 forensic officers going through Buckingham Palace. Well, why would they do that when the Queen is in Windsor? Why would they be wanting to go through Buckingham Palace? And then one of the guys that we know that's been linked to the forensics said it could take 10 years to go through it. And I was like, really? So let's see what excuses they come up with. But one thing that's very clear, the power of television is quite scary because the mainstream media have been absolutely lying through their back teeth about this.
Yeah.
The fear-mongering is the fear that they've created, because in the adverts, even in the sport, like down on one knee, Black Lives Matter, it's become so politically driven, and all the adverts are, it's just ridiculous.
I call it the theatre of war.
Yeah, the theatre, that's correct.
And, I realised a number of years ago, I came back from work one day and I walked through the kids' playroom and all 5 of them were sat watching and they didn't see me. I walked through 2 or 3 times and I was like, they're hypnotised.
Yeah.
They're really hypnotised. So that was it. We decided no TV.
Yeah.
Then I had one of the big steps I took in terms of like claiming back my power was that I started researching common law. And I learned this phrase, and I saw all these people who'd been standing up against the TV license on YouTube. And I watched them and I was like, wow, is this real? And I learned this stuff. Eventually, stop paying the license. They come to the door. They say, are you Mr. Atwood? And I said, I'm not answering that question. And I'm recording you, and I'm going to put this up on YouTube later. And I was shaking while I was doing it.
Yeah.
And then I remembered that, I rehearsed this line. And I remember saying, I took a deep breath and I said, I refute your implied right of access to this property. Please leave. And then he went.
Yeah.
He walked off. And I was like, what?
Yeah.
And then I walked up to him and said, I've been inspired. I don't know if you've heard of Tony Rook and Matt Campbell. There was a film called, I always get the name of the bloody film wrong. Oh, come on. No, he's going to kill me because I've forgotten the name of the film. It's about irrefutable evidence of 9/11. Matt Campbell was my friend from Bubbrook. His brother Jeff died in the towers on 9/11. For 20 years, I just interviewed him yesterday on my channel. For 20 years, he's been I've been over his shoulder while he's been writing to everybody. He's a brilliant mind, Matt. He's a physicist and a mathematician. He's just tried to break the whole thing down over 20 years. It even got to the point where I was supposed to go to Guantanamo Bay with him. He actually went. And we spent a week at Guantanamo Bay, which he talks about in the interview. And I'd been inspired because Tony Rook had made this film. I'd been taken to court for his TV license, and his defence was that if he paid his TV license, he would be contravening subsection 16, I think, of the Anti-Terrorism Act 2004. I can't remember that details. And the BBC had reported on Trade Centre 7 going down 20 minutes before it had, so therefore they were supporting this act of terrorism. Therefore, he'd be breaking the law if he paid the license. Sure. And it was kind of a limbo scenario. And he didn't get fined. I think he got fined a little bit, but he didn't get done. It was like, I said exactly the same thing to this TV license collector guy. I said, I'm not going to do it because of this, that, and the other. And he just looked at me and said, I'm not going to get anything out of you, am I? I went, no, you're not. No. He drove off.
I spoke to John Smith only yesterday from the Common Law Court because of the fact that I did a show with him. On my channel, and he got so inundated with applications to move to a bigger premises.
I'm not surprised.
Which he's just moved to, because I said to him, we need to do another one. He's gone, not just yet. I'm going to get this one sorted out, but they've moved to a bigger premises. So that's why anyone that's watching that's still waiting for their common law cards and whatever, he's absolutely snowed under. He's had to move from his premises to a bigger premises. He's got the new premises, he's got the keys, he's just setting it all up. He'll be operational fully next week, he hopes.
And do you think common law is going to be part of this Gesara? Is it actually going to
It's part of Gesara. It's
Yeah.
part of the whole format because Trump wanted to do away with the maritime law because it's so
How
corrupt.
amazing would that be?
It'd be unbelievable.
Well,
And it'll a critical part will be completely retraining all the lawyers and judges in a system that is because the whole law is how the world should be.
yeah.
But it was kidnapped or hijacked by these evil people to make us a commodity that they monetized or capitalized. Yeah, the whole system is so corrupt, and that's one of the biggest parts of Gesara. The other big part of Gesara, which is that a lot of people overlook, is the humanitarian side.
Yeah.
What are we going? We're all going to be financially so much better off without all these taxes, without mortgages and loans and what have you. With the extra money we've got, we need to be looking after each other and looking after the planet that we have, because we've become very complacent in the way that we look after things. We live on a very beautiful planet, and we just need to learn to look after it.
Well, you know, I live in Ireland. I have done for a couple of years, and one thing that I find myself doing a lot is this: when I'm describing the people and how reliant they are upon the state.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, the concepts of sovereignty is something that I really came across about 7 or 8 years ago, and
Sure.
tried really hard to become as sovereign as possible. And, you know, never taken a penny off this government. I've been self-sufficient.
Same.
You know, I owe nothing to. I owe a few quid to a few people, but I don't owe anything to the government.
Sure.
It won't do it. And you know, I was even talking to a young lad here, really talented one last night. He's a filmmaker, and he was talking about, well, when I get this grant, I'm going to do this. And I said, get the grant.
Yeah.
Do something now that makes money, so you can fund it yourself.
Correct. Correct.
What are you waiting for? Just get it done.
But this is the new mentality. They want everything done for them.
That's the problem. Well, they've created it that way.
Yeah, of course they have.
They've created it that way. And, you know, I looked around when I was a kid. My parents, you know, my dad worked in a factory. You know, he got up at 4 a.m. and he worked until 4 in the afternoon, and he was exhausted and got paid nothing. My mum had 3 jobs. She was a postwoman, she did, and I looked around. I was like, this is mad.
Yeah.
So I decided not to do that. You know, so I became a pilot, but then when I left there, I became an entrepreneur. And
yeah,
you know, you can do things in this life if you choose to, and you should take responsibility for yourself. Yeah. I just said to you, you know, I just got off the phone to the doctor because I took myself to the doctor last week. I had to wear a bloody mask. They wouldn't let me in without one, which I apologise to everybody for, but sometimes we're going to do what you're going to do. I ECG, blood test, everything all came back clear.
Yeah.
And people were saying to me, what's the matter? What's the matter? I was like, well, I'm just taking responsibility for my own health. I just want to know what the facts and figures are so I can adjust the course of the ship.
Yeah, of course.
You know, and I try to get kids to do the same.
If we look after ourselves, properly, then our body will look after us. It's that simple. If we do the right exercise and the right diet, under normal circumstances, 95% of the world can look after themselves. 98% probably can look after themselves if you look after your body properly. The trouble is people like me have abused my body, something rotten in the past.
You're not the only one. You're not the only one. I relate to that part of your story.
Exactly, but you know, my body now is looked after me very, very well.
Well, you're looking well on it. But do you remember when I was a kid? I remember the street I lived in. Every single garden, my dad had. It would be if you want dinner, my mum would send me to go and pick the peas.
That's right. Yeah, totally.
Everybody grew their own food.
Yeah.
Now I go back to that same street. They're all lawn.
Yeah.
All the front gardens have been turned into car park things.
Yeah, sure.
And nobody knows their neighbours anymore.
No, exactly right.
That was social design, and I feel like I was at the last part of when society was still, you know, leave the back door open, people would come around. I mean, I sound like an old man now, and this is what old men say, but this is it's true. It really, really changed.
We grow our own vegetables here at the house, and because of Justin, all our neighbours, the children are all the same sort of age group. They play out in the road together, and we communicate all the time, which is lovely. But it doesn't happen in the UK anywhere near as much as it
I know. Well, that's one of the great things about Spain is you go out for dinner in the evening, and the kids are out until midnight, and they're all playing, and everybody's chatting. It's beautiful. Everybody everybody in the UK is inside watching the TV.
Yeah. And then when we did take Justin out one New Year's Eve in London on the River Thames to watch the fireworks, we were asked to take him home at 9 o'clock. He's not allowed to stay out. And you're just like, really?
Mm.
You know, the children here come out to eat at midnight and they're still out at 2 o'clock in the morning and in school on time at 9 o'clock in the morning. And it's just the way they are.
Yeah.
They're with their parents, you know, they're out with the family.
And the weather helps, to be honest, but you know, it's still.
I love seeing families.
Yeah.
Where you have a young family, so you've got the youngest generation and the parents and the grandmother and the great grandmother. So the one thing that people forget is if mummy and daddy say no and the child doesn't listen, grandma will say no and they'll listen immediately. And it's a matriarch or whatever. But the discipline, the Spanish disagree with me. They say it's already slipping away. We're getting more European. And I said, you are, but you're still ahead of the rest of us and keeping the families together and all eating out on the beach together on a Sunday. You know, they're still very good at it.
Mm.
Well, Mark, it's been wonderful talking to you. And we'll have to do it again because we haven't covered a number of issues because there's a few things I wanted to go through with you as well, but we can do this again, especially with your journey. I was your 56th subscriber.
Oh, thank you very much. I couldn't believe that yesterday. I was over the moon. I mean, starting that channel was a bit of a jump for me as well. I mean, I work online anyway. I've been doing YouTube videos for years, but never talking about this stuff.
Sure.
And I was on this road trip with my son and I couldn't not do it.
Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
And I saw this King John castle on the road and I was like, King John, this is a sign.
This is a sign. Let's get on. Let's do it. And there is so many signs out there and we just have to keep focused, keep positive.
Yeah.
And just look, things are going really, really well. He's on top of it. He's getting rid of paedophile gangs. He's getting rid of the cabals, the deep state, everything that's evil in the world he's getting rid of. And one thing I try and point out to everybody is after this is over, I promise you there will still be evil out there, but it won't be in control anymore.
But when it is over, can we have a big party, please?
Oh, I'd love one. All right then, Mark.
Thank you, Charles.
Great to see you.
You too. Lovely. Thank you.
Take care.